Welcome back, my friends, to the party time that never ends. It's Major League Sorare. It's Trippin and DraftKicks, Schuyler and Daniel and Schuyler. And we got a special guest joining us today, so really excited about it for an episode that we like to call The Algorithm Strikes Back. DraftKicks, I don't know if you saw, I went solo without you earlier this week. I don't know if that hurt a little bit, but you are my so rare wife, so I hope you didn't feel like I was cheating on you. Just think I was at a conference, and anything can happen at a conference, who knows?
Hey, I mean, you're stepping up to the plate, man. You're taking one for the team. That's what has to happen this time of year. When I'm living at the soccer fields, I think I had 5 games I was at over the weekend, and then I was at one last night. So hey, I don't have time to jump on a episode with you over the weekend, so I totally get it. But here we are, man, and we've got a guest in the house. So
yeah, we'll bring him in a second. I want to just really quickly explain the reason for why I was solo. It's to build these beautiful lineups with the help of the algorithm, the Soraredata lineup builder suggester with strength score weighting of priorities, I guess is how you would call this build. There's got to be a better way to call it, but you can see these are like the lineups that I built through no fault of my own, and now we're here to see how they did, and we're here to air some grievances because we have coming to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Soraredata, the daddies. People call HG the daddy, but Andrew's my daddy because he is my referral code into Sorare. And welcome, Andrew Laird. Great to have you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, this feels like a throwback, man. This would feel like we should be talking about some DraftKings MLS contests with $400 prize pools. But
yeah, exactly. I'm like, man, my $8 ticket for the 3-game slate. My how things have come so far. I do feel like it's a RotoWire flashback for if you know there. And welcome to Major League Sorare for your debut, Andrew.
Thanks. No, I appreciate you having me on to air your grievances about a computer program that I had nothing to do to build. And so, yeah, I get excited to jump into it.
Yeah. Well, you're just kind of, you're the representative, just kind of like if you ever, if everyone saw Oppenheimer, or if you've studied the history, Oppenheimer, he's known as the father of the atomic bomb because, he was the one that was out there publicizing and talking about it all after the fact, in all the magazine and TV and radio interviews. So, you maybe didn't create the Soraredata lineup builder, but you will have to answer for its foibles and flaws today. DraftKicks, what does it feel like for you to be back on a content show with Andrew Laird after all these years?
Oh, it's great. It's great. We haven't done content necessarily, but we've hung out a couple of times over the last year. So I think the last time we were kicking it was in DC for the MLS All-Star game, watching Arsenal whoop up on the MLS All-Stars. And I see you've got a home there for your Carlos Heel life-size card behind you that you brought home from that All-Star game.
Wow.
I won it. As opposed to one of our good friends who did not win it, but ended up with one as well. He will remain nameless.
Maybe you can consider a new baby gift for that nameless friend. It's great to have you. I'm here. So let's just cut to the chase, I guess, if we will. Let's look at my lineups, and then let's see how they did. I made the point as I was talking. If anybody saw the episode, these are lineups that I would not have built. For the most part, these were divisions I would not have played, and so it was kind of funny. But as I put over and over again, and I'll do one more time today.
I am the Futus of Org. Resistance is futile.
I mean, how great was that? Everybody needed to see that one again for sure, right? All the Star Trek. But I have a new GIF. This one is not quite as good in terms of quality or audio, but I'll play this because this is the Terminator death scene. This is how I was feeling all weekend as all my lineups died. And but then there was that thumbs up right at the end, right? So the thumbs up. So I've been showing the builds, but maybe I should just skip to the results, right? And quit being a tease here. So here's how we did. We did 2 tier 4s.
For 2 tier 4s. Which, wow, that is nice. When you were building the lineups, were you thinking, about building lineups that would beat the algorithm, or the lineups that you felt like gave you the best chance to win cards? Like, I feel like people might start psyching themselves out that they just want to beat the algorithm, and you don't have to beat the algorithm to actually beat it, if that makes sense. Like, you have to beat everyone else in order to really beat the algorithm.
Well, explain that a little bit. Go into more detail though, because you just you just put my mind in a blender on that one. Sorry.
So
it is early in the morning, but yeah.
The idea, like the lineup strength indicator, is really what will make you think before the game week that you're building a better lineup than the algorithm or not.
Right.
And fundamentally, the algorithm will never tell you your lineup is better, because it's presumably giving you the best lineup it thinks it can make. And
right, for sure, 100%. So if what I did was that I put zero input into my lineups whatsoever. I just literally went through and did whatever the algorithm told me to. Although, spoiler alert on another thing, I did cheat a little bit at the very end as I was inputting the lineups, because like I didn't input the lineups on the stream. I just kind of built them all. And if you saw, I barely looked at them. I would just like go through. I was just checking the scores. I was just like, this score for this division, and I should have been writing it down, but I was, like keeping it in my head, sort of leader in the clubhouse. Can anyone beat this? Can anyone beat this? And I'd go back and lock that lineup in, and then I'd go through the whole exercise again and see, now that those players are out, now who's got the best score and stuff like that. So the things that were,
I don't think that's the wrong way to do it, but it's more when you decided to make your lineups, was there a thought of, this is the best lineup I can make, or is it, this is good enough to beat the algorithm? Because just beating the presumed algorithm lineup may not be enough when the players actually play in real life, and then you're not actually winning.
That is what I do all previous to this week. And is that what you do, DraftKicks, also? Like, I think, like, I'm trying to think like I'm better than what the default is. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we rely on the Soraredata pick scores, but then my previous method before this game week would have been to like see what the pick scores tell me, but then also try to like twist it in my head. But this is actually better because of something that I know that this is not considering. In this exercise, I just was a slave to the algorithm. That's why it was called resistance is futile, because it's like I didn't resist whatsoever. I just like put in whatever lineups it told me to. Now at the very end, the funniest thing was the trends I noticed was it prioritized regional divisions. So I want to ask you about that, Andrew. It gave a lot higher lineup strengths to cap 270s than to almost any other division when they were open on the table. Once I got the two Americas out there. So this, I'm thinking, is this partial to my gallery, or is this or can we maybe find some biases hiding inside of the lineup builder and the pick scores and things like that? So that's one question I want to ask you. Sorry to give all this prelude. And then the other thing is, I built 10 lineups with this with super rare and rare cards. My last two lineups were all-star rare and all-star rare pro based on like the pick scores. That could be an indictment of my shitty gallery, that it's just not strong enough to compete in the all-stars. But I'm also wondering, like, is there a bias towards in the lineup build? Like, are you going to get a higher pick score strength or overall lineup strength, I should say, with being in a 270 where there's less competition? Is the algo considering that? Same thing with regional. Like, are you going to be stronger kind of by default relatively in a regional than in an all-star? And then why did it not give me, like, can it be taught to prioritize getting the threshold so that the ETH divisions come a little higher? DraftKicks, I feel like you're just sitting there just like watching me talk, so I feel bad, but I got to let Andrew answer those questions. Then I want to hear from you. I'm sorry. Let's take Andrew full.
That's why he's here.
Wow. So I think fundamentally it's going to prioritize, and when I say prioritize, like give the highest lineup strength indicator score to the cards that are the best in your gallery. And so if you have a predominantly America gallery, it's going to say you have a better shot at winning a reward in America, meaning Champion America, Rare Pro, whatever it is, than you do in All-Star. And the basis of that is simply, if you have the fifth best forward in America, they're probably like the 20th best in All-Star. And so the idea is, why not just use the card in the region where it's the most powerful? And so I actually felt personally offended by the algorithm this week because the third best lineup I could put out was in cap 220.
Oof,
and I was like,
yeah.
You need to have some really bad cards to like have a really good and I was like, and so right away I was like, I'm not using the algorithm because I can't admit that that's my best place to win. And so I don't use the algorithm blankly. Like I do see what it does, and it kind of helps me. I actually use it more in terms of where I should prioritize lineups as opposed to which cards specifically to use. But ultimately, with your gallery, which is more MLS, it's going to say you should go after the competition where your cards are the most competitive. And if you have mostly MLS cards, it's going to be America.
Fair play. What do you think, DraftKicks?
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what Laird said there. And yeah, so the game week that he's referring to just locked. And so there's several potentially lopsided Champions League games this game week. And so, yeah, most of my builds, I did run through the algorithm just to see what would pop up. And most of my builds were pushing me in towards Champion America, towards America Rare Pro. So, yeah, I mean, I think too, just kind of going back to what you were touching on, Tripp, is like for me, I've never been huge on the lineup builders. Just even going back to DFS days, I'll run them and just kind of see what pops up. But
I
there's
brought
always
that up in the episode too. Did you watch the episode,
Right.
DraftKicks? Come on, oh, jeez.
I bounce around through it. I didn't watch it the full thing, but kudos to everybody that did, because I did see a lot of people in the comments on YouTube showing you some love, saying how much they enjoyed the episode. So definitely think it was helpful. If it wasn't for me, then it was for somebody else. So, but no, I just say, you know, on the lineup builder thing, similar to the algorithm, there's always that gut factor that it's not going to have. You know, going back to the RotoWire show, I was always big on, hey, you know, I feel that Wando hasn't scored for a couple of games. If Wando's due, I've got that gut feeling. But no, you referenced it, Tripp. Like, there's always going to be those factors as far as little bits of info that the algo might not know. Like, oh, this guy starting to get more minutes. Somebody else might be dealing with a niggling injury. So he's going to have the opportunity to step in and have a big performance. And so that's where you got to kind of make that judgment. And it might be a one-off. It might just be like one player that you're like, hey, I like what the algorithm spit out, but I'm going to tweak it just a little bit.
I don't feel quite as good about the guy's potential to start as the algo's dealing with based on the predictions or something like that.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think the builder can't take into account is sort of that, like, how likely are they to start? I do think that brings me to one of my next points, which I still want to get an answer on why it might be recommending 270 saying 270 lineups are stronger than 240.
Specifically 270 versus 240.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
or 270 versus All-Star.
Yeah, well,
because you're dealing with global cards there in both.
Yeah, so most of the highest of end cards, like score wise, are almost impossible to play in 270, and so those cards tend not to have good pick scores. And I will admit that I don't love the way that the lineup builder or pick scores currently work with the cap modes, because, and I've used this example before, but if you have like a number of really low L15 players that should just like smash their L15 cost, let's say you are in a situation where you have like 65 points left for one player, you should probably play that 65 point player, but the algorithm, like the pick score, will not change based off of the salary or, the cap space that you have left. And so if you do play that player, it's going to give you a low strength indicator, because generally it's not going to suggest a 65 point player in a cap mode anyway. But then it also, so now you have like a low strength indicator, and it looks like you're making a bad lineup when like actually it is optimal. So that is something that we're still kind of tweaking, because some people will build a cap 240 lineup and they're like, I want to win cap 240. Like, I'm not here for a threshold, I'm trying to win. And again,
so
it doesn't matter. It's fine.
I have a real world anecdote from, it's so funny how, life imitates art, imitates life. It's become instructive for us. But all I can say about it is this is the lineup where what the builder spit out was the exact same situation where it gave me a stronger lineup score. This is where I cheated. This is one of the 2 spots where I cheated the algo. And it had TT Ortiz as the forward in this lineup. He's a former Charlotte FC player, now plays for Barcelona SC, not FC, in Ecuador, and sometimes takes sets, sometimes great, sometimes horrible, and sometimes doesn't play at all. So you never know. And usually subs at the hour mark, right? That's the TT Ortiz profile. So he, because of his lower L15, has a much higher rating than Karol Swiderski, who I know is almost a lock to start at home against DC United, so it's like the lineup builder gives me TT in this spot. And I said to myself, man, I know I said that resistance was futile and I was going to be a slave to the algo and all that, but I cannot in good conscience put my Karol Swiderski super rare in training in favor of TT Ortiz when I have like 10 left over cap wise. Like this easy, like either one of them there was like 6. If with TT it was like 16 left over. I went through that in the episode. I was like, and after the episode I was like, I can't do it, and I just put Karol in. Now, footnote is TT outscored Karol in like 70 minutes. So the algorithm struck back on me there for sure. I would have probably gotten a tier 3 instead of a tier 4. I think with TT score probably, yeah, I would have. So absolutely brutal.
No, that says you're what, 6.5 points short. TT ended at 39.6. So it was
okay. He was at like 43 late in the game when I saw. Okay. So okay, he ended at 39. Okay, so not horrible, but yeah. So
and you were right, 66 minutes, and he was yanked.
Yeah, exactly. And Karol played 83 minutes, I think. And
I don't think anybody
algo doesn't factor in that Charlotte homerism for TrippinB. It's not
at home to DC United for a forward who's the second highest paid player on his MLS team. You can take the jersey off. I think that's the right play, but what do I know?
I don't think anybody in their right mind would play TT over Swiderski.
Right. Just a bad use of resources.
That does point out the clear kind of struggle that the algorithm has with cap modes, in that it's trying to emphasize value to the L15. And so it doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to get, you're going to fill your cap or what it is. And the score can influence you a little bit in that respect of, oh, this lineup's actually not as good, but realistically, Swiderski was the right play.
So I agree. And I did at least I got a tier 4 out of it. I got the 2 tier 4 cards that I won were both in my cap 270, which is a division that I always am at the very end. If I have an extra goalkeeper, I'll see, because I know I have a lot of midfielders and defenders. And so if I'm lucky enough to have an extra goalkeeper and forward, which are my 2 smallest supplies of positions, I'll throw in a cap 270. Why not? And here was the algo telling me to prioritize cap 270 over a lot of others. I did it. And those were the only 2 rewards that I won. They were only tier 4s, but hey, it's better than nothing. I don't know if I could have done better myself, to be honest.
Do you think, because I've been thinking about this for my own gallery for a while, do you think that we with the way that our galleries are and this time of year, where we're competing against all of these super European cards, that we're actually best off in 270 instead of All-Star?
Yeah, except for the month long becomes a factor. You want to try to go good in the month long, at least, or so the first couple weeks of October, at least I'll probably be thinking All-Star over 270. But then if you fall out of that, then it becomes more of a question, I think, for sure. Especially because 270 has that extra bonus of if you spike, you can win a higher scarcity. You can win a super rare and a rare, for the higher finishes.
Yeah,
that's not too bad. I'm
still not sure where I am. I haven't made any decision for my gallery, but I think the cap modes might actually be underrated.
As DraftKicks may beg to differ, right? Because you would point out, I think, that you can win ETH in the All-Stars also. The ladder ETH, not just podium ETH in All-Star, I think weighs in the proposition as well, right? Which brings us to, this is a lineup you did this weekend you want to show off, right, DraftKicks?
Yeah, won a little bit of ETH there. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been leaning towards, is just put my best foot forward in All-Star, unless, a game week like we just referenced this past game week that just locked. And yeah, it's just I don't feel like a lineup like this that's MLS heavy is going to compete against some of those European cards that are, going to have some pretty big results. So,
I mean, these are some pretty nice dudes.
Yeah,
I think Brooks
obviously,
Lennon was on a lot of podium finishes for a lot of teams, right? Like, but you played this in All-Star.
Yeah, I played an All-Star, felt pretty good about it. And yeah, Stuver let me down a little bit. I felt like he was in a good spot at home, but he's just
his defense let him down. It was
Austin has
horrible. It was horrible. I was
Well,
watching.
yeah. So yeah, Austin's defense, which has been the story all season long.
Mhm.
But yeah, good to get a good finish. I think that's going to be good for a tier 2 there.
MLS
but
versus
yeah,
the
no,
world, baby.
Yeah, so just real quick too, kind of backtracking a little bit. I did one of the exercises I did this game week just to kind of lead into our show was I actually went in and built my lineups, hand built my lineups, and then went through and ran the algorithm just to kind of compare it and see kind of where I was lining up. And my best lineup was America Rare Pro, I think. Almost mimicked exactly what I put in, except I think it had Brooks Lennon in at defender, and I've got a Julian Gressel defender card. And so yeah, it's pretty spot on, I'd say, as far as like, you kind of know where it's or who to plug in where that's going to get you the best results in some of these contests. But then when you throw the algorithm in and see what it spits out, then yeah, it's kind of just affirms some of your decision making process.
Yeah, I think one thing that also has to factor into like being able to prioritize America right now also is that you can win Messi, right? And we all figure Messi's going to be next. He's going to have the full MLS season to bang 100s all summer next year. It almost feels like a must-have card for next summer. So you might as well win him here at the end of this year if there's one available.
It is a huge.
I need a new one.
Yeah. Schuyler bought a Messi, then went to go see Messi, and then had to sell his Messi card to pay in reverse for the tickets that he bought to see Messi. But that's, in a way, that's kind of like Sorare giving you a real world experience. Just maybe not.
It would have been nice if they hooked me up like they did Nashi out in LA, but I'm not on Nashi's level just yet.
You got to get that production level up, man. We got to get
right. That's right. You got to have the YouTubes
crews
churning out.
Yeah. I want to bring up my next point that I referenced earlier. I teased, and then now I'm getting to it. The lineup builder needs something, and you tell me if this is already in the works. Schuyler mentioned DFS. We're all familiar with DFS, right? What's the deal with and if you do DFS lineup building, if you're using lineup optimizer there, you can X guys out. What's the future of like being able to X guys out of this lineup builder so that we can like if I want to do what the algo's telling me, but there's a guy that I just know they're wrong on or considering on, how can I X him out and then do my lineup strength after that? Is that something that you guys are working on? Maybe, I don't know.
If you do the suggested lineup right now,
we
don't have the.
Yeah. This is for next week that just started. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So
spoiler alert, we're taping this immediately after lock. So yeah, there you go.
Yes, you can X out the player like when the card comes up.
Yes, right.
And that will take it out of for that competition. It won't suggest it anymore.
All right. That's kind of a roundabout way. I want to be able to take him out of all my lineup builds for a given draft. Let's say.
So
we've
just
got
don't use the player at all.
Yeah, let's say I want to do 2 drafts, and I want one that considers having a couple injury risks in, and one that doesn't. You know what I'm saying? And I want to see what the suggested lineups will be across various divisions, or I just want a little bit more streamlined view of my own hand build. That could be another reason for this feature. I just want the ability to X guys out of this list here, the player pool, if possible. Because Pablo Cisniega is never in the squad, and I have 2 of his cards because I'm a moron, and I just don't want to see him, in my lineup builds. That's what I'm saying.
No, that is a suggestion that we have had before. I think the company line is that if they're terrible players, like they'll always be at the bottom of the pick scores. Like I can't imagine Cisniega is getting suggested much.
No, agreed. Yeah. But again, there's multiple reasons. It's for the suggestions. It's for the streamlining of the look. I feel like I watched poor Jimmer streams. He's going through these guys. He's scrolling up and down freezing his damn computer trying to load all these cards. I don't know. Just a thought. I get why it might be low priority to y'all, but just as one user in the wild, and people, this is where we say, hey, leave a comment in the comments below in the video if you agree or disagree, since we're not doing this live. But what do you think, DraftKicks? Am I greedy?
No. I mean, you're just, hey, that's why we've got Laird on the show, is to one, pick his brain, and then two, kind of get a little bit of insight on what feed him some of our thoughts, and then also get his rebuttal. So you've probably got more experience than I do, as far as tinkering with the algorithm, with the lineup builders, and so I'm perfectly fine with you kind of leading the way here. And
well, then let me get to another thing. Let me just keep going then. Let him cook, as they say in online slang these days. It won't show. I can't really give the visual example here because the pick scores are like so early. It's like proto pick scores for game week 409 now. I don't know. Maybe if I went back to 408, would it still show some of the
pick
stuff?
Still show, yeah.
Yeah. So what I can't stand, to quote George Costanza's gym teacher, can't stand you, is when there's, oh no, this needs to be in a cap build. So when you go to cap 240, and I need to just do a new draft also.
I was just about to say,
yeah. When you go to cap 240, and this idea of like, well, they're a zero cap, so if they start, they're a great play. There's got to be a way to fix this where Pablo Cisniega, who's 100% out of the squad, not going to even be on the bench, rating as a B against Christian Colina, who's 100% is going to start no matter what, unless he gets hurt, and then it'll be George Marks. Christian's an F, and I get that it's cap and all that, and I get their chance to exceed weighs into the pick score, but like, you guys got to tell me you're tweaking some way to fix that situation, because that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I actually thought we did that already, because like Cisniega shouldn't be ahead of Marks. Like presumably Marks should be ahead. I know that's like grasping at straws here, but
yeah,
the player
every little step, baby steps, baby, like Dr. Leo Marvin once said.
But it's mostly if you're on the bench, you have an opportunity to play,
right?
And Marks presumably is on the bench, and if Cisniega is out, then he's not going to be able to play.
Right.
So I actually thought we adjusted that, but I'll go check on that. But I agree. At no point, and I think it probably applies more to goalies than outfield players, because theoretically outfield players could come in and play, and they're more likely to, or at least some of them. But yeah, a B score for that, I think, I agree with you.
Yeah, let's check forwards. Maybe there's just some illustration we can show in the forwards. I mean, again, Ninfasa Berchimas, like this kid, he plays for the Crown Legacy, which is like the academy. Yeah. That's equivalent to the academy team. He's not making it as a B score over Julian Alvarez, who's 98% to start in a Champions League game against Fuck Yourself FC, from somewhere out there. So that's all I'm saying.
Don't you have Kings Kangwa? I think that's who
I do have Kings. I do have Kings. Yeah, the Red Star. He's projected. Kings is subbed in from the bench the last 3 league games for Red Star, so I didn't have the feeling to put him in this week, unfortunately. But I wanted to.
Yeah. No, I think so to address one of them. Yeah, this is always a work in progress. Like there's never a point where we're like, okay, the lineup builder's done, and so the pick scores are the same way.
That's the best thing I've heard all day.
Yeah, and so we'll definitely. That's absolutely a conversation we've had, and it's more how do we better show if a guy really is not going to play, as opposed to like if he plays, he's obviously going to outscore, because outscoring is 0. All you have to do is step on the field, and you greatly outscore your L15.
Right.
And so, I think there are situations where obviously we know that like the zeros could play. I think I saw a bunch of people talking about Kyoto this week because he has an L15 of 0, and everybody gets really excited. But obviously that situation is very different than Pablo Cisniega. So, so yes, we are absolutely working.
And I'll be gracious, hopefully enough to say that obviously have to point out you guys are dealing with a universe of literally tens of thousands of footballers, I'm sure, and every single individual user is hyper focused on their one specific club situation. Like, how can you not know about Pablo Cisniega not being in the squad? What the hell, Soraredata? So I get it. Like, you know, it means a lot more to me than to literally almost anybody else playing this game. But but at least I've got you here, so I can, you know, I can. I got a lot of problems with you people, and now you're gonna hear
straight to the source.
Yeah.
Just these.
What do you got, DraftKicks? I mean, that's pretty much all I got. I won 2 tier 4s. Rewards come out in a few hours. I look forward to. I fell out of tier 3 to tier 4 in the Super Rare 270, which is brutal because that's a big drop. And
so it's not a big drop though. Like,
there's a lot more goal. I was hoping to get a European goalkeeper because I'm like, oh, this, if I win a European goalkeeper here, this can keep me alive in the off season.
All right, you're probably dead on that one. You're right about that. But I just want to say, I just like a reminder that the prize pools, like the tier lists, are just arbitrary lines along a humongous list of players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was in America Rare Pro this week. I fell from tier 2 to tier 3. And like, I literally, it was like the first thing my son said to me this morning. He's like, "Oh, you dropped to tier 3." Like, I hadn't even looked. And like, he
thanks, kid. Good morning to you too. Did you do your homework last night?
Too, exactly. But fundamentally, like, I'm only 2 spots lower, and that doesn't mean I'm like 2 spots on the exact reward list. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's good. But the drop might literally only be like 3 players on a list.
That's true. Yeah,
100.
I mean, it's 3 spots. Yeah. I do think that if we do think it, like, maybe I'm too old school here, but if you're thinking of like tier 0 is the old tier 0, and like tier 1 and 2 are the old tier 1, and tier 2, tier 2 and 3 are like the old tier 1, and like tier 3 and 4 are like the old tier 3, or what, I don't know. I messed up that analogy, but it feels like a bigger drop. 3 to 4 feels like a bigger drop than 2 to 3 is what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I get that. But even back then, we were like, it actually might be better to be the top of tier 3 than the bottom of tier 2. And so, but again, the literal bottom of tier 2 and top of tier 3, or 3 and 4, 4 and 5, are just 2 names on a humongous list of players. And so, you might just luck out.
Yeah, I think I'm just pissed. You know how, like, there's always going to be a drop on Monday, or there's going to be a drop anytime your lineup's done and there's games remaining. You're going to go down. But I fell pretty far from like 9th to 22nd or something like that, from like Sunday night to Monday. Yeah, sucks. But because for a bunch of bullshit games, I don't know. DraftKicks, good luck on your reward. What, you got a tier 2 with that rare all-star rare and a little bit of
tier
ETH?
2 incoming. Yeah, I browsed through the rewards briefly, and there's some good ones in there. Several players, of course, I am not familiar with, but there's some MLS cards in the mix that I'm hoping for. Might not be the optimal reward, but hey, we'll see what comes through.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Laird, for joining us. You're the man. This has been fun. We'll keep it short and sweet, I think. But we've been, after a long hiatus, we've cranked out 3 episodes in a week. DraftKicks, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, this has been great, and thanks, Lairdy, for coming on. It's I feel like for me, I'm still kind of getting familiarized with some of these tools on Soraredata, but it's definitely refreshing to hear what Andrew's saying as far as that it's just a constant work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like, you know, as far as my personal Sorare journey, I feel like I'm not utilizing the tools on Soraredata as much. Like when I see you running through some of this stuff, Trip, I'm like, man, like I need to delve in a little bit more because I do feel like it'll help the game, help my game. And yeah, help several people out there too. So I'm a star member, I think is what it's considered on Soraredata, and that I think that opens up everything as far as the entire suite of tools and everything that you
unlimited power, baby.
Yeah. So and it has helped me to that extent, but I would say that I feel like I'm still just getting my toes, dipping my toes into what's available out there. So looking forward to using it more. And yeah, thanks again, Larry. It's been fun.
No, thanks guys for having me on. It's been too long since the 3 of us were on something together. So hopefully we don't wait too long next time.